reading from, what is the name of this book? Let me try to remember it before I even read it back again and double check it. Confirm. I don't know if I can remember it. It's called Sadhana, The Spiritual Way, by Krishnananda, Swami Krishnananda. Sadhana, which means spiritual practice. The word sadhana in Sanskrit means the effort exercised towards the achievement of a purpose. An effort exercised towards the achievement of a purpose. Sadhana. In this sense, every effort is some kind of sadhana because it leads to the achievement of some intended goal, consciously or unconsciously. Chapter 1. The search for happiness. The search for happiness. Sadhana, which means spiritual practice. Here, in the context of what is known as spiritual sadhana, what is it that we are aiming at? What is it that we are aiming at? This question has to be put, each by oneself, to one's own satisfaction. What do you want, finally? What do you want, finally? What do you want, finally? Clarity should precede the bestowing of thought on any other type of accessory in sadhana, which means spiritual practice, which is the effort exercised towards the achievement of a purpose. The question that should be clear, that should be posed to one's own satisfaction, is, of course, what are you aiming at? What is it that you want, finally? If the goal is not clear, any means adopted to the goal will fall flat. Like a huge structure raised on a weak foundation. Let each one of you put a question to your own self. What am I seeking in the end? A hodgepodge type of response with no logicality behind it will come up to the surface of your mind. You will never be able to easily answer this question. Because when you decide that some particular thing is your goal, you will find after a few days pondering that this chosen goal is unsatisfying. Then you will ask for something more than what you had earlier chosen as your goal. The more you think over this matter, you will realize that the goal is receding further and further from your grasp. You will never be able to give a final answer to this question because you yourself, who has to answer this question, are internally in a muddled condition. You have to answer this question. Our minds are confused as to the purpose of their operations. Every day we make different decisions, not very relevant to our earlier decisions of the previous day. There are moods and facilitating ideas that keep us floating on the surface of life, never allowing us to delve into the depth of the fathomless truth of existence. There were great sadhakas in ancient times, great masters who sought the nature of the ultimate reality of life. One of them is the well-known Narada Maharshi. He was a master of every kind of learning available in the world. He went and prostrated himself before a great master known as Sanat Kumara, the firstborn of Brahma, the creator. The great master asked him, "How is it that you have come? What do you require?" "Master, I have no peace of mind." "Let me hear what you know already." Let me hear what you know already. After hearing from you an answer to this query, I shall tell you what I can. Narada opened his book of knowledge and narrated a list of sciences and the arts in which he was proficient. Master, I know every science and every art in the world: metaphysics, theory of knowledge, astronomy, physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, psychoanalysis, aesthetics, ethics, sociology, political science, culture, religion, philosophy. There is nothing that I do not know. But I have no peace of mind. I do not know myself. The great master replied, all this that you have learned is a bundle of words with no content inside. You have smeared your personality with a veneer of apparent knowledge, but you are quite different from that which you have gathered on your personality. The shirt is not the person, and therefore your learning is not what you are. What does the situation point to? If nothing that we know is of any final utility to us, why are we living in this world? Why are we living in this world? If nothing that we know is of any final utility to us, then why are we living in this world? From the nature of the answer given by the Master Sanat Kumara to Narada, it would appear that all our efforts in this life are finally futile. It would appear that all of our efforts in this life are finally futile. They keep us in an illusion that we are getting on well in this world. A rich man, well-to-do man, healthy man, ruler of the world. They are under a delusion in thinking that they are such things as they are considered themselves to be. The delusion has entered into the core of our being, as an incurable disease can become part of the parcels of the very cells of our body. We cannot know that we are ignorant. We know nothing about the delusion in which we are sunk, because our very existence, the total personality itself, is made up of ignorance. Darkness is the substance of our personality. If there appears to be some light before us that we see in our daily life, it is a radiant penetrating through the mass of the cloud of ignorance. Well said, therefore, is the answer of Master Sanat Kumara to Narada. Your learning is a brilliant radiance before you, as it were, but this radiance is muddled and it is contaminated by the very process of its passing through the thick cloud of ignorance of which you are yourself made. If the disease that has caught hold of a person becomes the very essence of the person, that person cannot even know that there is a disease at all. When ignorance is the substance of our existence, there is no way out. There is no way out. We require a bolt to descend on our head in order that we may awaken to the fact of what is happening to us, Imagine for a moment. Who are the happy and completely satisfied people in this world? Go on a world tour. Go to every country, meet all people, and ask, are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy? The answer you receive from these people is worth knowing. Sorrow gnaws into the vitals of human nature, and it is whitewashed by a smear of egoistic assertion of adequacy of oneself. As we cannot live like puny nothings in this world, we put forth a great effort to parade in the eyes of people and before our eyes also that we are not where we are. Even if you have fallen down, you will say that your nose is not hurt, that you cannot find a single satisfied individual in the world is a matter for deep consideration. What is wrong with us? How can we live by knowing that everything that we do and think and speak is wrong? We required the grace of a power beyond us to liberate us. In philosophical circles, questions are raised. How does knowledge arise in the individual? Who manufactures knowledge? Who cannot say that you have created your knowledge? Because in order to create knowledge within yourself, you must already be possessing that knowledge. An ignorant person cannot have the seed of this knowledge if you are not the source of the knowledge. Who created this knowledge? Who created this knowledge? Has it come from outside? It does not appear that it has come from you, because to manifest knowledge from your own self, you must already, within yourself, have the potential of that knowledge. If that is already there, then you need not seek knowledge at all. The great Dattatreya Maharshi says in the very first verse of the Avadhuti Gita, the knowledge that frees you from the fear of life, the threat of death, does not arise by a slipshod effort on the part of any person. A miraculous occurrence in the very operation of the cosmos takes place. The pros and cons of which process we cannot know. We cannot know. We cannot know. Just as we cannot know how we are born into this world. We did not push ourselves into this world with our own efforts. We were pushed by someone else, by somebody else. We were pushed by somebody else. Similarly, we will be pushed out of this world without our wanting it. If our coming and going is not in our hands, what else is? The beginning is not in our hands. The end also is not in our hands. How do we arrogantly conclude that the middle of our life is in our hands? That is equally beyond our control. The entire life is superintended over by something which we are not capable of knowing, by the apparatus of knowledge available to us. Superintended over by something which we are not capable of knowing, by the apparatus of knowledge available to us. This is briefly the introduction to the liberating discourse that Maharishi Sanatkumar gave Narada. The difficulty is not only knowing things outside, but also in knowing our own selves. In knowing our own selves. Put a question again. Put a question again to yourself. What kind of person am I? What kind of person am I? In the midst of many people, you will not be able to think in this matter. Go to your room, shut your door, put down the telephone, close your eyes, and think for yourself. What kind of person am I? What kind of person am I? A revelation will emanate from yourself, which is contrary to what you thought you are. Bereft of social associations, bereft of any contact with the wealth of life, bereft of even a cloth on the body, sitting alone by yourself in a lonely corner with nothing around you to consider as your own. In that state of affairs, if you raise a question to yourself, what am I? What will you think you are? Misery will be the response to this question. You will realize that nothing seems to be in your hands. As you came, so you go. As you came, so you go. And so you live also. And so you live also. Your importance to a large extent depends upon social relations, the connection that you established with people in the world. Minus these connections, what are you? When nobody wants you, when you have nothing for yourself to call your own, when the ground under your feet is shaking, and you cannot stand on this earth, when you have lost everything with nothing left to call your own, what do you feel at that time? You will then know what you are. An empty balloon, which was filled with the air of arrogance, has sustained man through his life. An empty balloon which was filled with the air of arrogance has sustained man through his life. Arrogance cannot feed you, it depletes your personality. It draws your energy out into an area of perception which is misleading you. The more you are egoistic, the weaker you become. Though the egoistic person imagines that his importance increases by the affirmations of his personality. Who are you to affirm yourself in this condition of affairs? Everything has been torn into shreds of unimportance. Even the body is trembling and the mind is roaming around with a crazy power. Something like that happened to the great epic hero, Arjuna, as described to us in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Everything has gone, nothing is left. You do not know whether you have to cry at that moment or what to do. You are sinking. You are breaking. You are crumbling down, and none wants you in this world. At that time, what is your importance? If any importance is left, even in that condition, that is your real nature. That is your real nature. If there is nothing left at all in you under these harassing conditions, you are in danger. Sanat Kumar told this to the sage Narada. You are in danger of your egoism of learning. In a series of declarations, the great master Sanat Kumara raised the mind of Narada to the heights of larger and larger comprehensions. Here is an essential point for us to bear in mind. The process of sadhana is an adventure, whereby we move forward gradually by degrees in the comprehension of our own selves. Here is an essential point for us to bear in mind. The process of sadhana is an adventure, whereby we move forward gradually by degrees in the comprehension of ourselves. What is meant by comprehension? Again, we should not fall into the pit of that list of learning, which Narada presented before the sage Sanat Kumara. The point driven into our minds in this context is that we are not a bundle of social relations, because these relations can snap at any point, at any moment, and we can see it in the process of history. Then, what remains? Only our body remains. But the body is unreliable. At any moment, it can be snatched away by the icy hands of death. You still will remain, as you know very well. You will never feel that you have been abolished, even by the loss of the bodily personality and all the social relations. You will continue to feel always that you are, not that the body is, the mind is, friends and relations are, wealth is. Nothing of the kind can be called what you are, because now you are ridding yourself of the relationships, even the bodily encumbrance, and trying to know where you stand in this great environment of the universe. Narada is educated by Sanat Kumara, like a great intelligent psychologist schoolmaster. He came to the astonishing conclusion that our happiness does not lie in acquiring anything at all. It is finally in the acquisition of ourselves, of our own selves. The previous considerations have shown that we can own nothing in this world, not even this body, or our friends and relations. Yet, we do exist, clamoring for an ultimate solution to our perilous predicament. Sanat Kumar's final answer is that we cannot know anything unless we know everything. Just as a good physician cannot know the ache in a part of the body unless he knows the whole physical, anatomical, and physiological structure. The whole body has to be known before knowing what has happened to a part of it. If we cannot apply a similar diagnostic method to our own selves, we may conclude that we are asking for everything and not only something in this world. We may conclude that we are asking for everything and not only something in this world. That is why anything that is provided to us in any abundance is not going to satisfy us. It's not going to satisfy us because we have a feeling that there is something more than what we have already gotten. Why cannot we have that also? We would like to rule over the earth if that could be possible, but we would not like to be merely stuck on the ground of the earth as its emperor, because we will be harassed again by our ignorance about the skies and the stars. They are above the air, beyond this world, telling us that we know nothing about them. We would like to conquer the stars and the sky and all space. There is no such thing as possession, is what we concluded. If that is the case, we cannot possess the earth, the skies, and the stars. Then what do you mean by saying that we have to know everything in order to be happy? You have to know everything by standing inseparate from that which you are seeking. Because if you stand separated from it, whether it is the earth or the stars and the skies, it will elude your grasp, just as anything that is outside you will escape from your grip. That which will not leave you and will always remain with you is that which is inseparable from yourself. Then what does Sanat Kumaro say as a conclusion? Here is the final Supreme Court judgment on the nature of human happiness. The infinite is bliss. The finite is wretched. The infinite is bliss. The infinite is wretched. As everything is finite in this world, including your body and personality, everything is ruled over by utter sorrow of the inadequacy of the finitude of personality. Everything is ruled over by the utter sorrow of the inadequacy of the finitude of personality. The inadequacy of the finite individuality is overcome by the infinitude that is reigning supreme within the deepest core of every finite being. There is an ocean roaring behind the drop that we appear to be on the surface of perception. The roaring ocean is the infinite existence, the infinite existence. The infinite is not a large accumulation of particulars. One has infinite wealth, we say. That is not the sense in which we have to understand the word infinite or infinite. Infinite wealth is an accumulated group of finitudes, but many finites do not make the infinite. But many finites do not make the infinite or infinite. Therefore, the richest man, the ruler of the world, is not happy. The infinite is that outside which nothing can exist. Outside which nothing can exist. That you will behold nothing outside yourself. Nothing will be heard, nothing will be understood through the intellect as external of its own self. This is the great, glorious, infinite, infinite. Religions call this state God. Philosophers call it the absolute truth, the ultimate being. All these names are associated with the wondrous, miraculous, enrapturing, magnificent truth that we are something more than what we project ourselves to be in our social life, in our public life, even in our private life. The time now has come, therefore, to ransack our personality threadbare. The time now has come, therefore, to ransack our personality threadbare and be honest to our own selves before we are honest to other people. To thine own self be true. To be honest to our own selves before we are honest to other people. To thine own self be true. To thine own self be true. Chapter 5. The Descent of Creation and the Ascent of Consciousness. The Descent of Creation and the Ascent of Consciousness. Yesterday, I endeavored to clear some of the major misconceptions that are likely to harass the mind of a yoga student and practitioner of yoga. It was also necessary to clear up the enigmatic relation that one maintains with human society outside. I emphasized the fact that since we have been living like social units right from our birth, we are accustomed to think only in social terms. We forget that God is not a social being. He is not one among the many, but the human being is one among the many others like one's own self. We forget that God is not a social being. He is not one among the many, but the human being is one among the many others like one's own self. The existence of a human individual in society is tremendously influenced. The existence of a human individual in society is tremendously influenced by the nature of the society around. Tremendously influenced by the nature of the society around. So much so that one cannot easily, as a physical and psychological individual, wrench himself or oneself from social relations. Society has become a part of our very skin. And to peel off social contact would be like peeling our own skin. Yet, some such supernormal adventure has to be embarked upon when we take to the practice of pure spirituality, or yoga. Society has become a part of our very skin. The existence of a human individual, the desires of human mind, clear some of the major misconceptions that are likely to harass the mind of a yoga student. The desires of the human mind, which are socially oriented, individualistically conditioned. The desires of the human mind, which are socially oriented, individualistically, as they have become part and parcel of our very way of thinking, persist in telling us, as they have become part and parcel of our very way of thinking, persist in telling us, how can you attain a salvation? How can you attain a salvation? How could you attain salvation when society is clinging to you? When society is clinging to you? This question was cleared in our earlier discourses, and it is necessary for every one of you to bear this in mind if you are really going to be a 100% student of yoga and not merely a half-hearted appreciator and participating in the work of spirituality. It is necessary for every one of you to bear this in mind if you are really going to be a 100% student of yoga and not merely a half-hearted appreciator or participant in the work of spirituality. The intention here is to convey to you the spiritual background that exists behind your personal and social way of thinking and interpretation of things. The Atman, or the soul that you are, is not a part of human society. There is no society of souls. There is no society of souls. You will be wondering, is it so? But what is society then? What is society? Society is a well-arranged pattern of psychophysiological individualities. Society is a well-arranged pattern of psychophysical individualities. The Atman, or the soul, is not confined to your body. It is a consciousness, a pervading essence of which we appear to be a little part on account of our association with this body. Just as is the space contained in a little tumbler has the awareness of itself being within the tumbler. Just as if the space contained in a little tumbler has the awareness of itself being within the tumbler, it will think that the space which is largely expanding outside is external to it due to the walls encircling this little space inside the tumbler. But if the walls are removed, there is no tumbler space. It is one space, all-pervading, omnipresent. Therefore, the ideal of the Atman attains salvation. Therefore, the idea that the Atman attains salvation may not be associated with another wrong notion that the individual person attains salvation. With another wrong notion that the individual person attains salvation. world is also a soul by itself. The world is also a soul, as there is an apparently conceived individual soul. As there is an apparently conceived individual soul, there is a world soul which animates all existence in any form. The world's soul, the world's soul, the world soul may be compared to the wide space pervading everywhere, and the apparent individuality of our own soul inside may be regarded as something like that space contained, encircled by the wall of the little tumbler. Who attained salvation finally? Who attained salvation finally? Neither you nor anyone else, taken in their individualistic sense, because the Atman attained salvation. It is not the body or the mind that goes to God in the state of liberation. It is not the body or the mind that goes to God in the state of liberation. When you say that the Atman reaches the absolute and reaches salvation, you immediately bring before your mind the notion of what the Atman is truly. When you say that the Atman reaches absolute and reaches salvation, that the Atman reaches absolute and reaches salvation, you immediately bring before your mind the notion of what the Atman is truly. Too much explanation on this subject is not necessary. Too much explanation on this subject is not necessary, as you are particularly aware of the essence of what is spoken to you earlier. As you are particularly aware of what has been spoken to you earlier. If the Atman is a pervading essence, as the so-called space inside a vessel is really the all-pervading space, the attainment of salvation by the Atman would mean the attainment of the salvation by the omnipresent consciousness itself, which is called the Atman in terms of the bodily existence. Salvation is a universal attainment, universal in the sense that you cannot separate yourself from the environment in which you are located when you are rising up to the state of salvation or attainment of God. The environment of human society is part and parcel of your existence here in society. In a similar manner, the entire nature is a larger society than human society, which is an inseparable accompaniment to your personal existence. Which is an inseparable accompaniment to your personal existence. Society and nature cling to you, not as external objects or things, but as your own wider involvement in the life and the life of the universe, The attainment of salvation, therefore, is an indescribable, unthinkable achievement. Indescribable, unthinkable achievement. Humanly conceivable methods of operation cannot comprehend this truth. Humanly conceivable methods of operation cannot comprehend this truth. For the time being, when you are a student of yoga, persisting in salvation of yourself, you have to stand up as a superhuman person. The yogi is not a person. He is a super individual. Comprehensiveness, the meaning of which has to be clear. When you arise, or rather when you rise to the Almighty, the entire creation rises with you. I have been mentioning another analogy on other occasions that when you wake up from a dream, all the people in the dream also wake up with you. They are not remaining there outside you. It is not you separately from those people you have seen in the dream has woken up. It is not that you separately from those people you've seen in the dream has woken up. This phenomenon also is unthinkable. This phenomenon also is unthinkable. Is unthinkable. Society-bound mentality cannot understand this philosophical or spiritual connotation of spiritual experience. as all the world of dream experience rises simultaneously into a wider comprehension of waking consciousness. In a similar manner, the world consciousness will rise up with you, If this does not take place, salvation has no meaning. This phenomenon is also unthinkable. These precedents of consideration, when you sit for meditation, have to be taken care of very carefully. These precedents of consideration, when you sit for meditation, have to be taken care of very carefully. I have dilated upon the methods of meditation. Some system of contemplation on the deity as you conceive it was explained. That was particularly an aspect of devotion. Bhakti marga. Some system of contemplation on the deity as you conceive it was explained. That was particularly an aspect of devotion. Bhakti marga. But there are other ways which certain yoga students may follow. They are the purely volitional method of affirmation of will. It is not a devotion to any particular deity, but it is a devotion to a particular principle. This psychological method of contemplation is actually the attempt on the part of a yoga student to grasp the principles of operation in the universe. This psychological method of contemplation is actually the attempt on the part of a yoga student to grasp the principles of operation in the universe. What are the principles? What are these principles? You have heard it in cosmological doctrines that the creation of the world as we conceive it commenced with the dark covering of potentiality for creation, called Mula Prakriti, the original matrix of the creative process. You have heard in the cosmological doctrines that the creation of the world as we conceive it commenced with a dark covering of the potentiality for creation, called Mula Prakriti, the original matrix of the creation process. The methodology of the descent in the process of creation is very important to remember in the path of yoga. The methodology of the descent in the process of creation is very important to remember in the path of yoga. The methodology of the descent in the process of creation is very important to remember in the path of yoga. The universal being appears to be clouded, as it were. The universal being appears to be clouded, as it were, with this darkness of potentiality for creation. With this darkness of potentiality for creation. As it happens when we are fast asleep. The darkness of the causes of our sleep. Covers the potential Atman within us, so that even if we have the brilliance of the consciousness of the Atman within us imperishably, the darkness of the potential for sleep covers it, so that when we are fast asleep, we do not know what is actually happening. Covers the potential Atman within us, so that even if we have the brilliance of the consciousness of the Atman within us imperishably, the darkness of the potential for sleep covers it. It's only when we wake up that we realize that there was some obstacle due to which we were not aware even in our own existence. The process of creation is similar to the process of waking up from sleep. The process of creation is similar to the process of waking up from sleep. So that when we are fast asleep, we do not know what is actually happening to us. It is only when we wake up that we realize that there was some obstacle due to which we are not aware, even in our own existence. The process of creation is similar to the process of waking up. The process of creation is similar to the process of waking up from sleep. What happens when we are awake? Our consciousness of existence manifests itself. And tells us that we are. And that there is a world of objects outside. Here in this waking perception, the Atman does not directly operate. If it did, you would not see the world outside. You would see a flood of light. You would see a flood of light. But that does not happen in our waking condition. Here in this waking perception, the Atman does not directly operate. If it did, you would not see the world outside. You would see a flood of light. But that does not happen in our waking condition, due to the fact that even when we are awake, the consciousness of the Atman penetrates through the darkness that covered us in sleep, and therefore our waking understanding is a condition, rather a little bit distorted way of perception. This is the reason why with all of our intellectuality, rationality, studying, and learning, we cannot understand the world correctly. We see it topsy-turvy, and thoroughly mistake it for something different from what it really is. Intellectual knowledge, rationality, philosophical, or any kind of achievement is not of utility in the spiritual contemplation of the soul. All the great values of life that we enshrine in our bosom as very dear to us, are of no worth, as you will know at the time of calling. Such learning is poor stuff, which has no essence in it. This happens because our present waking consciousness, through which we learn all things, is conditioned by the darkness of our ignorance. The inward consciousness manifests itself through waking, through the cloud of our ignorance. Such learning is poor stuff which has no essence in it. This happens because our present waking consciousness, through which we learn things, is conditioned by the darkness of our ignorance. The inward consciousness manifests itself in waking through the cloud of our ignorance, disturbed, scattered in many directions as sunlight does when it penetrates through scattered clouds. Therefore, the soul has to be distinguished from mental awareness. The awareness of the soul is quite different from the awareness of the mind and the intellect for the reason already mentioned. When the soul rises to action, you will find that a kind of bursting of your personality will be experienced. I cannot choose any other expression for this phenomenon. In our daily life, the soul never manifests itself. Therefore, we feel thoroughly grieved throughout our life. In our daily life, the soul never manifests itself. If the soul had an occasion to manifest itself at least once in our life, we would not know what sorrow is. We would know what sorrow is. We would not know what sorrow is. But it never manifests itself at all. It is always submerged within the dark cloud of ignorance, created by unfulfilled desires of past lives, which we have brought with us when we have taken birth in this life. With a tremendous attempt of understanding and will, we have to try to delve into what we really are. We have to try to delve into what we really are. Very rarely, we become totally ourselves. It is said that sometimes, under certain circumstances, the entire soul takes possession of us. When we feel that, we are in possession of the whole world. When the world has entered into us, when we have become emperor of the world. Can you imagine the state of an emperor of the whole world? Such a person never existed in history, and such a person is not likely to exist also. But at least in imagination, you can feel what that person would experience when he is master of the whole world. The total person will rise up into a comprehension of the total world. The total person will rise up. The total person will rise up to a comprehension of the total world. indescribable joy temporarily manifested through the calmed quality of the mind will reveal, in a symbolic manner at least, what one would experience when the soul rises to action. There are occasions, it is said, when the soul will totally take possession of us. When we are drowning in water and we have no other alternative, the entire life process will get congealed into our experience. What anyone would feel at that time of drowning, only the drowning man would know. Others cannot know it. At another time, also, the soul seems to be taking possession of us when we are enjoying dreamless sleep, not disturbed sleep, stone-like sleep, log-like sleep. When you wake up, you feel tremendously refreshed. Even a sick person feels better after sleep. Wounds heal in a remarkable manner after a patient's good sleep. You do not like to wake up after that experience because that joy and fulfillment of your soul, which pervaded your entire personality in sleep, does not allow you to rise up from it. So you would like to sleep more and more. But when the sleep is over, you have only a memory of that wonderful, blissful, relaxing sleeping condition. And then you begin to think. You begin to think only through this darkness of the potential of sleep. In the creative process, some such things take place. The universal consciousness of Brahman, the Almighty, penetrates to the potential of Prakriti, which is the creative seed. The penetrating consciousness, that is the absolute, when it passes through the darkness of the creative potential, it's colored. Penetrating consciousness, that is the absolute, by the conditioning process of the Mula Prakriti. The absolute potential is the creator of the universe, as we call it, Brahma, the progenitor of the cosmos. The absolute being, God, as he is in himself, does not create anything. He is all in all, and he is alone, and there is nothing outside him. The question of something being outside gradually manifests itself when this universal being penetrates through this veil of Mula Prakriti. That conditioned consciousness, universally spoken of, is called Mahat, the great universal intellect of Brahma. There is, further down, a manifestation, a sleep. A sleep becomes the dreaming condition, and the dreaming condition becomes the waking condition. This Mahat being, or the Brahma principle, descends into a more clarified outline of the future created universe. In dream, we have an outline of the waking condition. That outline of creative thinking is called Hiriyanjarjarbha, another form of the descended consciousness itself. That outline of creative thinking is called Hiriyanjarjarbha. When it comes down again into the waking state, it is called Virijat, and we are now in that condition. We are in Virijat consciousness just now. Multiplicity is everywhere. Projected awareness of things is at all times, but there is a great distinction, nevertheless, between Virijat consciousness and our personal consciousness of the world. Virat knows all this manifestation as itself only, as its own body. But we cannot feel that the whole universe is our body. For us, unfortunate that we are, the world is outside us, apparently with no connection with us. Then there is a perceptual process taking place. We cannot perceive the world as Virat perceives it, because Virat's comprehension of the universe is an I, as we feel in regard to our own body in the waking state as I am I. But now, Because in the waking state, we begin to think through the sense organs and project the consciousness is an external fashion through space and time, and project the consciousness in an external fashion through space and time. We wrongly think that the world is outside us, and we have the necessity to function through perceptual facilities. Now, in this type of meditation, a reverse order takes place. The first stage of this reversal process is to withdraw the perceptual facilities or faculties. The perceptual faculties, which externalize the world as if it is outside, and bring these faculties to concentrate themselves on the mind itself. Then, with great effort of will, assert that you are in an inseparable physical part of Virat consciousness. An inseparable physical part of Virat consciousness. You feel at that time that you have become a world individual. Then there are other stages, higher and higher and higher and higher. As above Virat, there is Hiranyajgarbha. Above Hiranyajgarbha is Ishvara, who is the manifested form of the Supreme Being through Mula Prakriti. Then there is God. As He is, in Himself, the Absolute. This contemplation is prescribed by certain teachers of yoga like Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras. There are certain Sanskrit descriptive names given to these processes of gradual ascent. The very first step of true meditation takes you beyond the concept of your individual body. The mind tries to permeate through the bodies of everybody in the world. The mind tries to permeate through the bodies of everybody in the world. It is as if all the world is meditating at the same time. It is as if all the world is meditating at the same time. It is as if the whole world is meditating while you meditating. You meditating through everybody, buddy. And it's the first step to true meditation, cuz. This the very first step to true meditation. It's as if the whole world is meditating at the same time. You feel like that? Because if you don't feel like that while you meditate, I be feeling like that. But that's you know what I'm saying. That's just the first step for me. Like, I mean, that's like one thing I just do, you know, I'll be knowing while I be knowing, you know what I mean? You feel me? That's something I ain't even got, you know what I mean? That's just, you know what I mean? That's automatic. It's the very first step of true meditation. It takes you beyond the concept of your individual body. The mind tries to permeate through the bodies of everybody in the world. It is as if the world is meditating at the same time. It is as if all of the world is meditating at the same time, you understand? Damn, nigga really said that though, cuz. You heard this nigga say it? In a manner which will not be very clear to you, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras call this condition Savitarka Samadhi. Savitarka Samadhi. Mortal world consciousness is one of externalizing perception through the sense organs. Here in this new world perception of Savitarka state, there is nobody to behold the world through the sense organs. The world contemplates itself. The world contemplates itself through it, though it be in a physical form. You can, with the power of your imagination, feel for a few seconds at least, that all space-time, the stars, the sun, the moon, and all physical creation has entered into your body. You will not be seeing this world outside because the whole world has entered you and it has become you for the time being. Thus, even the lowest stage of yoga achievement is far removed above ordinary sensory perception of the world. Thus, even the lowest stage of yoga achievement is far removed above ordinary sensory perception of the world. These things have to be understood only at the feet of a great guru or master. Studies of yoga literature will not clarify your mind, because here are things which you have never heard of, and you will not easily hear also when you are in daily routines of work in the world. However, whether or not you are going to rise into this state, I shall at least outline before you what will happen to you in the practice of yoga as described by Patanjali. The world consciousness will melt down into a higher stage. The world consciousness will melt down into a higher stage where it will not be in any way associated with even a tinge of sense perception. When we think of this world awareness in the condition of yoga, we may be under the impression that the world is visible to us. This error, therefore, is to be overcome. In another higher state called nirvitarka, which means essentially the non-contaminated visualization of the whole world as inseparable from you. You are not merely a world individual, you are the world itself. You will be shuddering from the root of your being even to think such things. Your hair will stand on end, your body will tremble, your prana will stop the breathing process, and your heart will throb for a second because the shock that you may receive in a response to this kind of meditation. The still higher stage is savichara, a technical word that suggests the experience of the world as an ocean of forces rather than objects or physical things. The world is not made up of solid objects, finally. It is a congealed form of cosmic energy, far subtler than even electric energy. You may call it prana shakti, which is more than the breathing process. All the universe is a vibration of force, which gets condensed into certain formations. When the physical consciousness arises, can you conceive the whole universe, including yourself, as an ocean of energy only, and not as a heap of individuals? But beyond this, there is something yet. There is an awareness of the fact that the whole universe is nothing but a sea of energy. This condition is of the cosmic mind. You may call it Brahma's mind, all-pervading, universal mind, contemplating itself as the background of even the energy of the cosmos. Nirvichara is the next higher stage, wherein the contemplation process ceases and becomes bare experience. It is not so easy to apprehend what bare experience is, minus the thinking process. It is not so easy to apprehend what bare experience is without the thinking process. Then comes the most magnificent state of Sananda, or universal happiness. All the joys of the world melt down into this one mass of happiness. Whatever joy we can conceive in this world, any type whatsoever, will all get centralized here in this center, which is everywhere, with the circumference nowhere. This condition is supra-transcendental. There is a higher state still, which is called sasmita. It will not be even an experience of universal bliss, but just an awareness that it is. It will not even be an experience of universal bliss, but just an awareness that it is. We are almost touching the borderline of God consciousness. I am not enjoying the happiness of the universal experience. There is no enjoying there. I am myself the joy. I am myself the joy. If you yourself are made up of joy, if you yourself are made up of joy, what would you feel at that time? What would you feel at that time? There would be no experience of joy. There would be no experience of joy. Joy experiences itself. Joy experiences itself. Say that 5 times fast. Joy experiences itself. You can't say that 5 times fast. You can say that 1 time slow. Joy experiences itself. Whoa. There is something more than that too. There is something more than that too. It is the entering into the bosom of God, called Kaivalya. 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 It is the aloneness of God being, unimaginable for the human mind. God only knows who God is. God only knows who God is. God contemplates himself. God knows himself. God is what he is. God is what he is. This is liberation of the soul. This is liberation of the soul. It is salvation. It is moksha or mukti. It is salvation. It is moksha or mukti. It is not merely somebody going to God in the sense of an outer attainment. It is God himself absorbing the whole creation into himself as he was before the creational process. As he was before the creational process. Yeah, duh. Yeah, nigga, duh. If you don't knock it off, what the fuck you doing it for? You understand? But you gonna feel it though. You gonna understand. You know, it's all type of areas. It's all type of areas, cuz. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And it's like you know what I'm saying? You drift into like the actual occurrence, the actual process, right? Because it's you can dwell there forever. Like you actually literally can dwell in wherever stage you want forever, right? But and it's not that you forget that there's this top area, this, you know what I mean, this before anything type state, which is infinity, which is infinitude. You know what I'm saying? Infinitude, right? Which is eternity itself, which is, you know what I'm saying? Unending, unbeginning with the wop, right? It's not that you forget that that's there. It's just that you got to get there. You know what I mean? You got to go through all of the different stages and phases and levels before you get there every time, right? You can start there too, honestly, right? You just got to go there, right? You got to definitely go there. And it's kind of like a dropping into it, honestly. It's like a rising drop at the same time. It's like a dropping rise into it, honestly, right? Especially with the breath, right? When you know what I mean? When it's a part of like the actual circulation of prana, right? Which is breath. That inhale, G, like when you feed in your brain that air, it's almost as if you can feel the oxygen going right into your brain, even though it gotta go through your lungs, through your blood, through your veins to your brain. Right? It's just interesting. There is something more than that too. There is something more than that too. I'm fucking with you. The creation. It is not merely somebody going to God in the sense of the outer attainment. It is God himself absorbing the whole creation into himself, as he was before the creational process. The creation ceases, you see, and it melts down into God being. It melts down into God being. The creation ceases, you see. And that's a whole nother level. That's that, you know what I mean? That's that upper level, feel me? That's that elite, you feel me? Because it's science beyond that, bro. This experience is moksha, final liberation. Some such picture of our advance in the path of yoga is described in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Stop thinking for a second and feel what you are now. Stop thinking for a second. You don't knock it the fuck out. Stop thinking for a second and feel what you are now. Stop thinking for a second. Stop thinking for a second and feel what you are now. What you are now. If by even hearing these truths that have entered your heart, you should consider yourself blessed. Your sins are destroyed. All the karmas are gone. You are polished, shining individual. Wow. Stop thinking for a second and feel what you are now. If by even hearing these truths that have entered your heart, you should consider yourself blessed. Your sins are destroyed. All the karmas are gone. You are a polished, shining individual. Call and response Q&A. Question and answer. New dimension. Essential aspects of life. Health. Action. Art. Family. Culture. Heritage. Breathing. Diet. Exercise. Rhythm. Motion. This is what scientists will consider a paradigm shift. The tipping point. We are on a sojourn. At the onset. The plummet. The zenith. Horizon. Meridian. On the outskirts of the very ridge. Of the ledge. Of the edge. Faced with the arrival of evolution. Forced and faced in human consciousness with an arrival of evolution. Human consciousness. A reconstruction of awareness. The divine designation of this new dimension. A next dimension. Another level of seeing. Another level of being. Thinking. Living. The enhancing advancement of reality. Most probably believe in the possibility of many realities. Several conclusions to applicability of the general individual may argue that reality is relative. That there very well exists everyone with their own truths. Zen enthusiasts might insist in the principle of a one universally natural and inclusively, exclusively supreme and supremely absolute and absolutely true. But are the others saying that another ain't? How do these two relate? And where originates the dichotomy, bridging the debate. Today we explore. Life we explore. Evaluate. Examine. Investigate life. As we know it, life as a whole. Life as a whole. This is the theme. This is the topic. This is the topic on the table. Here is something to ask yourself. Something we find. Here is something to ask ourselves. This is what I want you to answer. Call and response, question and answer. This is to consider what I want you to answer. This is what I want you to answer. To consider. To define. What is power? What is power? What is freedom? What is freedom? The two could go together. Maybe. They are maybe one and the same. Or one and the same in ways. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. Sadhana, the spiritual way. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, Brahmacharya, Garhastya, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. The attainment of spiritual perfection. The attainment of spiritual perfection is like a gradual ascent in the form of a pyramid. It has a base and it rises gradually, step by step, until the apex at the top is reached. This pyramidical structure of human life is constituted of four aspects of life. The fourfold requirements for the very existence of a person. The material needs of the body are a very important concern indeed. Whatever be your spiritual aspiration, you cannot ignore that you have a body. As long as you feel that you have a body, you cannot ignore its presence or forget that it is there, and then you cannot also forget its requirements. Everyone, even an advanced spiritual seeker, has certain needs concerning the physical body, like protection against heat and cold, hunger and thirst, sun and rain, etc. If you ignore these essentials, the body may perish, even though you may have an innocent spiritual aspiration. There is what is known as a total of material requirement, material need. Its importance is well known and is known as Artha, the material unavoidable. Then there is another thing, the aesthetic longings of the human personality. One cannot be happy merely by eating, drinking, putting on clothes, and having a house in which to stay. Even such a person will not be a complete person. There are other requirements which are of a vital nature, the desire-filled nature of the individual. A desire is not merely the desire for food and clothing, though it is primarily in some way. There are other insistent desires called kama, or vital wishes to be fulfilled, which are other pressures exerted by the biological personality, which too cannot be ignored, as they are part of oneself. Those who have lived a totally isolated life, unconnected with human society for a long period, will know the working of this kind of feeling in oneself. A disturbance of an unknown kind will take place inside the mind of the person, causing agitation to the heart. Due to that difficulty in controlling this reason behind the agitation of such emotional feelings, a yoga student also may be subject to intense anger, continuous irritation, intolerance of anything, and a bursting forth of one's own personality in an anguished manner. This is the negative aspect of unfulfilled emotional desires. They cannot all be fulfilled, and they also cannot be totally ignored. The nature of this kind of urge or impulse is something that cannot be imagined by an ordinary mind. Just as one cannot know oneself fully, one cannot also know all the desires of one's own person. Here it is that you are in danger, and you require the guidance of a master, a superior person. Whenever you are agitated, disturbed, and cannot control yourself, almost feeling that you are going out of your track in your mental operations, at that time, you have to approach a God and place before that God everything that you are passing through inwardly. Then, together with all these, there is also the aspiration for moksha, attainment of God, which is a fulfillment, finally, of the whole complex of desires, physical as well as vital. That also is to be taken care of with great caution, as the one conditioning everything else. The method by which you can hook together these three types of impulse and the final aspiration harmoniously. That procedure of the cementing of all these sides of human nature is called Dharma, or the law of harmonization of the aspects of the whole of life with all its relations in human society. The law of harmonization of the aspects of the whole of life with all its relations in human society, Dharma, or the law of harmonization of the aspects of the whole of life with all its relations in human society. Dharma is sometimes translated as religion, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, or others. Dharma is not denominational religion necessarily. It is rather a law operating in the universe by which everything is kept in a state of cohesion so that there is no dismemberment of the life of anyone or anything. You can be thrown into shreds of mental individuality as if the mind has been broken and cast into the winds of different directions, with the feeling that you have lost yourself entirely if Dharma does not operate in you. Please forget the old definition of Dharma as some religion. It is not any kind of ism. It is an ultimate law that keeps the universe in balance, keeps the body, the mind, your reasoning, society, and everything in a state of perfect integration so that you feel that you are existing as a total individual and not feel that you are a mix-up of several parts heaped together in confused matter. It is an ultimate law that keeps the universe in balance, keeps the body, the mind, your reasoning, society, and everything in a state of perfect integration, so that you feel that you are existing as a total individual and do not feel that you are a mix-up of several parts heaped together in a confused manner. This definition of Dharma is hard for any ordinary person to comprehend because we are always, right from the beginning, initiated into a wrong notion of Dharma as going to a temple, worshiping a god, following a faith. I follow Christian Dharma, Hindu Dharma, Muslim Dharma is a common saying. This is a poor definition of Dharma, which is something more than one can easily think. It is the law prevailing eternally. It is the law prevailing eternally in the universe, everywhere, in every aspect of creation, in every degree of manifestation, including your own individual existence. All these four facets of life have to be brought together into a focus of attention at the same time. These are known as the Puru Chart As, or aims of existence. The final objectives of life, known popularly as Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, i.e. moral value, economic value, vital value, and eternal value. The final objectives of life, known popularly as Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, i.e. moral value, economic value, vital value, and eternal value. None of these aspects can be ignored in our life. None of these aspects can be ignored in our life. Mostly people emphasize moksha and ignore the other things and fall sick and even become mentally a little aberrant. Mostly people emphasize moksha and ignore the other things and fall sick and even become mentally a little aberrant. And in the same way, you can emphasize wrongly one thing and forget the three other aspects, by which you may turn into a shred rather than a total individual. All this is the foundation that you have to lay for your aspiration towards spiritual perfection. All this is the foundation that you have to lay for your aspiration towards spiritual perfection. So that right from the beginning, it is a rise from a wholeness of approach through gradations of wholeness of perception until you reach the ultimate wholeness, which is the infinite or the infinite. So that right from the beginning, it is a rise from a wholeness of approach through gradations of wholeness of perception till you reach the ultimate wholeness, which is the infinite. One of the questions raised perhaps is the nature of the infinite. If the infinite is based on the infinite only, where is the question of karma? Karma has no connection with the infinite. It has a connection with the finite only. That which is located only in one place is called the finite. That which is everywhere is called the infinite or infinite. And as much as the infinite is everywhere, it cannot perform any kind of individualized action, so karma cannot be attributed to the infinite. Karma is a result of the reaction produced by individualized actions. The infinite has no karma. Therefore, our aspiration for the infinite frees us from the bondage of action also. There was a hole in the beginning. From the whole universe manifested itself. Therefore, this universe in which we are living is not a conglomeration of little pieces of material objects or individual existences. Even now, it is a whole. The world works in a systemized, complete manner from the whole, which is the infinite. The whole universe has come out in a whole manner, as a child born as a whole entity, from its source, which is also a whole. A little pinpointed drop, as it were, which is the origin of the child, is not one drop among many other drops. It is a whole by itself, containing the wholeness of the child, as a little seed contains the wholeness of a large tree. Thus, everything is whole. You are whole, and you are living a whole life, and you detest any partition in your way of living. You like everything in a completed form. This is the internal meaning of this great Upanishadic mantra, that is full. And this universe also is full. From the whole comes as this creation. How can it be possible? There cannot be two wholes or 200%. There can only be 100%, not two. So, how can 100% origin produce another 100% of this universe? This is a mystery, which should suggest that no activity has taken place in the process of creation. It is not that one day the infinite thought, let me become something else. Though such is the story we often read in scriptural narrations. It is something like your whole mind becoming manifest as a whole dream. The dream is a whole thing, Your whole being is transformed into a world of dream experience. Your whole being is transformed into a world of experience, and the whole experience of the dream world has emanated from the whole, which is your waking mind. Then, does it mean that the whole waking mind has transformed itself into a whole that is the dream experience? If a transformation has taken place, then the origin would cease to be in the process of transformation. Just as when the whole milk becomes whole curd, the whole milk ceases to exist anymore. If such a thing has taken place in the process of creation, the whole infinite absolute has become the whole universe, like the modification taking place in milk when it becomes yogurt or curd. Then, inasmuch as the milk ceases to be, God also would cease to be after creation. There would be no infinite for you to attain afterwards. There would be only this curd of the universe. But this is not true. But that is not true. You have not really become the world of dream, because if you had really transformed yourself into it, you would not wake up into the original consciousness of the total waking mind. This whole coming from the whole is a kind of appearance, like the whole face seen in a mirror as a whole reflection. You are a whole person, and you can see yourself in the mirror as a whole person. There are two whole persons. One that is there seeing the reflection in the mirror. Another is the whole person reflected in the mirror. Are they then two whole persons? Can you say that the one person has become another whole person here? For all perceptional practical purposes, the whole has become another whole through the mirror of reflection, but really, only the one existed. The purna, full, only is there when it has become another purna, full. Nothing has happened, really. In the same way as you are reflected as a whole person in a mirror, nothing has happened to you, in fact. Yes. Apparently. You are the same person always. You are the same person always. Thus, having taken the whole from the whole remains. Nothing has taken place. Nothing has taken place. Nothing has taken place. Nothing has taken place, which would mean that there is no such thing as creation, as described in mythological fashions in a dramatic way, as is presented before by stories of creation in the cosmological narrations. Such being the case, our life also should be molded according to this vision of wholeness. As wholeness has not ceased to be, you see. We have never become individualized beings at any time, you understand? We have never become individual beings at any time. Prove me wrong, nigga. We never got distracted. We never got distracted into personalities that we are appearing to be here. We are the same holes. And it's the same old holes. We are the same wholes, and therefore all fulfillment is here at the same time. It is not connected with a past, present, or future. It is not connected with the past, present, or future. Right. We are the same wholes, and therefore all fulfillment is here at the same time. This is the vision that you have to develop before yourself, so that even when you take the first steps in spiritual practice, you feel that you are a totally contented person, having achieved everything right from the beginning itself, because a series of wholes or perfections rise from my testicle sac, you understand? No, my fault, that's not what what it say? Hold on, let me read that over. So that even when you take the first step in your spiritual practice, you feel that you are a totally contented person, having achieved everything right from the beginning itself, because a series of wholes or perfections rise from the lower to the higher degrees. Because a series of wholes or perfections rise from the lower to the higher degree. A series of wholes or perfections rise from the lower to the higher degrees. Yes. You understand? The all in any and the any in every. You understand? Okay. Holes. You feel me? The holes in the hole. You understand? In Sadhana, the rise in Sadhana, which is any effort towards a fucking whatever purpose, any effort towards achieving a purpose, what Sadhana is. In Sadhana, the rise from the lower to the higher level is not a fraction developing itself into a whole. Fool, a fraction can never become a whole. You see, that part always remains a part, and the whole always remains separate from the part. But here, this is what I want to read. But here, a mini whole manifests itself into a larger whole. Man, that's kind of far out. But here, a mini whole, so to speak, quote unquote, mini whole manifests itself into a larger whole. That makes sense. Your ascent in spiritual sadhana is your whole personality rising into gradual expanded forms of wholeness of your own personality, so that when you reach the ultimate pinnacle of this wholeness, you realize yourself as a world figure like the Virat Svarupa itself. What is Virat? Virat? It is you, yourself. Virat Svarupa. It is you, yourself, expanded to the ultimate pinnacle of the absolute universal. Absolute universal. This is how you have to bring into a state of harmony all your requirements through the otherwise dissected forms of Dharma, Artha, Karma, and the ideal of Moksha. We generally think that Moksha comes afterwards and Dharma, Artha, and Karma are before that. That is to say, today is Dharma, Artha, Karma, tomorrow is Moksha. But Moksha is not a tomorrow. It is just here, present imminently in Dharma, Artha, and Karma also. It is like the gradual regaining of health by degrees through the very same consciousness. It is like the gradual regaining of health by degrees through the very same consciousness that is imminently present in your body. It is not that part of your body is regaining health. A wholeness of health, which is in a miniature form, rises into a larger wholeness, which is perfect health, perfect satisfaction. This is how we have to consider the ways of bringing together the aspirations which are Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha in our practical life. Spiritual life is a wonderful, most satisfying, magnificent thing even to think of, so that wherever you are, in whatever condition, whatever you may be doing in your life, you feel that you are fearless, fulfilled always, and everything that you need is at your hand. Thus, these four aspects of your life should come together as a vital blending in the way of living. In a way that is, to put it differently, the bringing together of the aspirations of a brahmacharan, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasin into a single fold. In a way, this is, to put it differently, the bringing together of the aspirations of a brahmacharan, grihastra, vanaprasthra, and sannyasин into a single fold. You will be wondering how all four can be together. This is because these four stages of life are four kinds of preparation for a single attainment of totality of a person. The sannyasin is not isolated from the brahmacharan or grihastra or the vanaprasthra. The brahmacharan is the seed that develops in the practical experience of the grihastha in life, which again matures into the detached existence of a vanaprasthra, which again matures into the total comprehension of the spirit in sannyasa. So, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha have some kind of connection with brahmacharan, grihyastra, vanaprasthya, and vanyasyan. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha are not like the four legs of a cow, unconnected. They are all one, like the four quarters of a coin, which cannot be separated because the coin contains all the quarters inside it. In a similar manner, all these four, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, are inside imperceptibly in the coin of your whole life. That also is the meaning of the apparently differentiated lives of the brahmacharan, grihastha, vanaprasthra, and sannyasin. They are also four aspects of the one coin of total development. Thus, always you live a total life, whether you are living in one stage of life or another. I have to repeat a few guidelines that I placed before you previously, which are of practical utility to you. You have to keep good company always. Even if you are a householder looking like a bound person, you can be a good person, an ideal individual, by living in the midst of a good community in a village or even a little township of friends and cooperative individuals. Keep good company as far as it is possible. If you can live socially, it is wonderful for you to choose your company and be in the midst of those people only. If you can live socially, it is wonderful for you to choose your company and be in the midst of those people only. But under circumstances which are beyond your control, if you are compelled to live in the midst of people who are not compatible with your personal aspirations, you have to do one of two things. Exert your power over the atmosphere of dissident individuals and bring a kind of transformation among them also, and turn them round into a good way of living. If that is not possible, ignore their existence as if they do not exist at all, and you are concerned with them only as a practical means of doing day-to-day work in an office, etc. These are some of the ways of adjustment that you have to practice. And how you spend your whole day is something very important. This is the very meaning of the spiritual diary inaugurated by Sri Swami, whatever the Maharaja, this is some other nigga. Sri Swami, I don't even want to say this nigga name, I don't even know cuz. This is the very meaning of the spiritual diary of this one other cat. What do you do actually right from the morning until you go to bed in the evening? Make a detailed analytical study of everything you do on that day, of everything that you do on any day. If you are working hard for some reason, find out how many hours of that day that you are working hard. Deduct this number of hours from the total numbers of hours in a day. How much time do you need for sleep and rest? How much time for bathing, recreation, and for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? How much for any other necessities? The balance is the hours that are available to you to attempt living a total life, even in the midst of your activities. The balance is the hours that are available to you to attempt living a total life, even in the midst of your activities. You may say that there is no balance left. The whole thing is a distraction. It cannot be like that, because nobody works all the 24 hours of the day, and nobody sleeps also indefinitely. Carefully, if you analyze your life, you will find that some little balance is left, even if it be only 1 hour. You will find that some little balance is left, even if it be only 1 hour. That 1 hour is yours. Consider all the other hours as not yours. They belong to somebody else. This 1 hour is sufficient for you. Your longing for spiritual attainment is what is going to lead to success, and not necessarily the number of hours available. Your longing for spiritual attainment is what is going to lead you to success, and not necessarily the number of hours available, though the number of hours also count when concentrating your mind. Though the number of hours also count when concentration of your mind is not sufficiently strong. If there is a burning aspiration, tivra, samvega, with ardor in your heart, then God knows your heart better than anybody else. All your sufferings, all your difficulties, all your problems are known to the mighty being. Trust in God and do the right. This is the old dictum: before you thus lead your life. Gradually bear in mind that your householder life is a preparation for a retirement from the occupations of a householder. It is not a retirement from work necessarily. The occupation is inclusive of certain mental entanglements. A householder, actually, is not a person doing many things, but thinking in many ways. The entanglement is not necessarily physical, but most psychological. The psychological detachment should mature gradually in a family. You do your duty to take care of your family, but don't be attached to the family. You may be wondering how it is possible to take care of a family with detachment. This is the difference between duty and work with desire. A duty is a necessity, an obligation that arises from your very being in the circumstances of your life. It has to be done for the welfare of the whole circumstance of your life, including the society outside. Your obligation is not to be associated with a desire for action. Here it is that the Bhagavad Gita comes before you as a guideline. The gradual detachment, even in a householder, is a maturity of thought arising after the experience of the whole of life as an entanglement individual in society. In the beginning, it is all entanglement. Then later on, it is only an apparent entanglement through social relations. Mentally, it is not so connected. Slowly begin to feel that your mind is a little different from the body and social relations. Then afterwards, you will find that you can live a life in the mind only. In the mind only. Then afterwards, you will find that you can live a life in the mind only, and let the social relations be anywhere. You are a mind rather than a social unit. You are a mind thinking rather than a physical individual associated with the mind. Thought is the human being. So let this thought be your final concern, and live in your ideas. And live in your ideas. and live in your ideas. Thought is the human being. So let this thought be your final concern and live in your ideas. Ideas rule the world. Every action is preceded by a thought. Every action is preceded by a thought. The world is not governed by actions of people, but by the thoughts of people, by the ideas of the leaders of mankind. The ideas manifest themselves as activities or performances. The idea is ultimate reality. Thought is the final principle in the cosmos. Thought is the final principle in the cosmos. Thus you live in your mind. Thus you live in your mind, in your idea of total comprehension and satisfaction. Then gradually you will find that you are capable of living independently without bodily associations. Such a life is called the Vanaprastha stage. Such a life is called the Vanaprastha stage, which does not mean running away from the family. It is a kind of family life only, without the agonies and the emotional pressures caused by relations with people. Which does not mean running away from the family. It is a kind of family life only, without the agonies and the emotional pressures caused by relations with people. Mostly, what people do is that they go away to some holy places for some time, though they have not left the family. For 3 months in a year, the family man goes out on a pilgrimage, lives in a holy place, and entrusts the enterprise of taking care of the family to his grown-up children. Whether you are a businessman, whatever you are, this is the first step that you have to take to detach yourself. For 3 months, you are not in the house. After that, you come back to the house and stay there for 9 months, so that you may feel no uneasiness that you are without any contact with your family member. Gradually, if this process continues for some years, you will find that you are in a position to live unconnected with your family life, because the members of your family are taken care of by the children, who are well placed. Mostly what people do is that they go away to some holy place for some time, though they have not left the family. For 3 months in a year, the family man goes out on a pilgrimage, lives in a holy place, and entrusts the enterprise of taking care of the family to his grown-up children. Whether you are a businessman or whatever you are, this is the first step you have to take to detach yourself. For 3 months, you are not in the house. After that, you come back to the house and stay there for 9 months, so that you will feel no uneasiness that you are without any contact with your family members. Gradually, if this process continues for some years, you will find that you are in a position to live unconnected with the family life, because the members of the family are taken care of by the children, who are well placed. Then you may increase your detached life into 6 months, 9 months, then occasionally visits to the family only. Somewhere in a sacred place, you live such a life. Somewhere in a sacred place, you live such a life. Then your life and your idea that you have chosen takes possession of you completely. You become an ideal being, not a physical individual. Your meditation is thought thinking itself, as they say. Idea operating on idea. The cosmic mind dancing in the center of your own idea, whereby your idea becomes a focusing point of the cosmic mind. And you are the sannyasin at that time. The sannyasin, moksha. A sannyasin is not necessarily someone who is put on any particular cloth. The cloth is just an indication that he has achieved that state. It is a social insignia to distinguish the person from the other people. The essential thing is what you think in your mind. So live in your mind only afterwards. Your ideas are the seeds of the universal idea of God. A person who lives such a life, a person who lives such a kind of life in his ideas only is a sannyasin. He has renounced truly. What has he renounced? What has he renounced? It's called fuckery is what it's called. He's renounced the fuckery. What has he renounced? What has he renounced? He has renounced the feeling that the world is anything but an idea finally. A mental operation. A cosmic dance of the universal spirit in which condition the question of attachment to anything does not arise at all. Hence, the question of the so-called renunciation also does not arise. Automatically, you are a healthy, spiritual person. Just as when you have become healthy, you have not renounced illness. Illness has not been thrown away. In a similar manner, you have not thrown away anything in your renunciation through sannyasa. You have attained a perfect, total, developed maturity of spiritual comprehension. That kind of living of an ideal existence, free in every sense of the term, happy always, happy with anything and everything, such a person is a sannyasin. These are some of the traditional features of a spiritual life. The methods of harmonizing with the principles of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, connected with the principles involved in the stages of the Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and the Sannyasin, all which commingle in a sea of comprehension, which is the maintenance of God consciousness. What the fuck? That kind of living of an ideal existence, free from every sense of the term, happy always, happy with anything and everything. Such a person is a sannyasin. Don't go try to do it or whatever, like to try to show me like you down. Like, just go find something to do. These are some of the traditional features of a spiritual life. The methods of harmonizing the principles of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, connected with the principles involving the stages of the Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasin, all which commingle in a sea of comprehension, which is the maintenance of God consciousness. All which commingle in a sea of comprehension, which is the maintenance of God consciousness. Such a person alone can be called a sannyasin. These are practically all the things you need for understanding the nature of spiritual life. Right from the beginning till now, whatever you have heard in these sessions is a book of life for you. It is a gospel, a treasure house, which you can keep with you as a godsend, which will save you in every way, forever. Call and response Q&A, question and answer, new dimension, essential aspects of life, health, action, art, family, culture, heritage, breathing, diet, exercise, rhythm, motion, motion. This is what scientists will consider a paradigm shift. The tipping point. We are on a sojourn. At the onset. The plummet. The zenith. Horizon. Meridian. On the outskirts of the very ridge. Of the ledge. Of the edge. Faced with the arrival of evolution. Forced and faced in human consciousness. With an arrival of evolution. Human consciousness. A reconstruction of awareness. The divine designation of this new dimension. A next dimension. Another level of seeing. Another level of being. Thinking. Living. The enhancing advancement of reality. Most probably believe in the possibility of many realities. Several conclusions. The applicability of the general individual may argue that reality is relative. That there very well exists everyone with their own truths. Zen enthusiasts might insist in the principle of a one universally natural and inclusively, exclusively supreme and supremely absolute and absolutely true. What are the others saying? That another ain't? How do these two relate? And where originates the dichotomy, bridging the debate. Today we explore. Life we explore. Evaluate. Examine. Investigate life as we know it. Life as a whole. Life as a whole. This is the theme. This is the topic. This is the topic on the table. Here is something to ask yourself. Something we find. Here is ask yourself. Something to ask ourselves. This is what I want you to answer. Call and response, question and answer. This is to consider what I want you to answer. This is what I want you to answer. To consider. To define. What is power? What is power? What is freedom? What is freedom? The two could go together. Maybe. They are maybe one and the same. Or one and the same in ways.